Hello again and welcome to another edition of Suds and Country. Hi, I'm Herb Suds and welcome to the show, my friends. I'm very happy to say on this show we have Blake Shelton, Warner recording artist. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. Yes, sir. Blake Shelton, considered one of the biggest breakthrough artists of the 2001 year, mainly due to your success of Austin.
Austin was a big record.
Austin was a big one.
I was lucky to get my hands on that thing.
How did you get the question is, how did you get that song and how was it pitched to you?
Well, we'd already finished my album. I was on Giant Records at the time, and we'd been working on the album for about 3 years, and we were just about to put the thing out, and I got a call from the record company one day. Said, "You got to come hear this song we just found." And so I drove into town that day and heard it, and you know, I was immediately floored by the song. I knew it was a special song, but I didn't think it was going to work for me, to be honest with you. And I even fought him on it a little bit, and I eventually went home and learned the song on my guitar and kind of made it my own. And we ended up putting it on the album. And once we recorded it, just to listen to it, it was a standout, and we all decided it should be the first single, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, that was a last-minute deal on your album, wasn't it?
It was,
sort of.
And it's scary now to think. You know, what would have happened if we hadn't had that thing.
Where'd the album go if it wasn't for Austin, huh? Yeah, what did you do? You just said it, and I'm going to ask you that question again. When you found Austin, it didn't feel right. What did you do to make it feel right?
Well, the original demo that we had of the song, it was a piano-based sounding demo, and we already had All Over Me, which was my second single on the album, and I didn't want two piano-based sounding things, so I just kind of made it more of a guitar. An acoustic guitar type song. You know, I say my producer, Bobby Braddock, is really the brains behind that whole thing.
What did Bobby Braddock have to do with that song? Didn't he shorten the title or something?
He did. It used to be called If This Is Austin, and he always felt like just calling it Austin was more interesting.
Do you think it would help the success of that song by Austin?
I don't think, you know what, I don't think, you could have called that
anything
song,
you want.
yeah, anything. It would have been
just a good tune.
It was just meant to be a big record for anybody who would have recorded it, I think, would have had a big record with that song.
What else is on that album? Talk to me about a couple other songs on that album.
Well, we got, you know, I write a little bit. I got 4 things that I'm a co-writer on the album.
Oh, good.
You know, my favorite song on the album is probably Old Red, which is the single we have out now that is doing real well for us. Again, it's kind of deja vu this summer of last summer, because we're just now hitting to the point with Old Red that it's, you know, it's up in the top 15 now, and it's really kicked in album sales. The album just went gold, and that's based.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. That's based, you know, on the success of Old Red. You know, because we kind of stalled out there after Austin, and it wasn't until, you know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago the sales really picked up again.
What was the time frame between Austin and Old Red, from the time you released it to the? You remember what the window of time was?
They're almost the same, about a year apart.
Okay. Okay. When did you record the album?
I recorded. There are things on the album that date back to '97.
Okay.
But the most recent recording on there is probably 2001, I guess.
Is this album considered to be universal? I mean, do you think that album appeals to everybody out there?
Well, I don't know if it appeals to everybody out there, but I do know it's a real diverse album, and there's not really a direction.
Okay.
You know, we sit down and decided we were going to do an album together, Bobby and I.
Right.
And there's a song there called Same Old Song, and we both knew we wanted to record that. It's a thing that Bobby wrote. And Same Old Song is basically a song about how this guy is sick and tired of turning on the radio, and everything he hears sounds like the song that was just on before, you know. And
tell me about that one.
Yeah, so we recorded that, and once we did that, we kind of set the watermark for ourselves.
There you go.
At that point, we couldn't record the Same Old Song, and it ended up with an album full of unique songs that maybe aren't for everybody, but there's really not a direction. One song is totally different than the next, and that may be a good thing or maybe a bad thing. I don't know.
In other words, they don't follow a storyline.
No.
The same storyline.
No.
Okay. How did you get the Giant Records in 1998?
It was Bobby Braddock.
Yeah,
we recorded 3 or 4 songs for Tree Productions, and he personally took it around town and sat down with record company presidents and played them the stuff. And we had a couple of people interested, and Giant Records basically said, you know, we'll sign you. It'll be, you know, a year before we can release anything on you, which wasn't true. It was about 3 years actually, but at the time I wanted a record deal so bad I just jumped on it, you know, and I'm glad I did. It all worked out in the long run.
You know, it was a shame when they went out of business just as Austin was taken off the charts.
It was.
Going up the charts,
yeah.
I mean.
And I was scared too, man.
Yeah, what went through your mind?
I just thought, you know, the song would go away because, you know, if there's not a promotion team working a song on radio, it's hard for them to survive. And there was enough big stations that had already started playing Austin a little bit early that it was up in rotation pretty good, and Warner Brothers took note of that and ended up taking the whole project on, and it, you know, was a good thing for both of us.
Boy, timing is everything, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you. Austin tied with Billy Ray Cyrus's 1992 smash hit "Achy Break Your Heart" as the longest-running '1 song for a new male singer. It was #1 for 5 weeks.
It was a big one.
That was a big one.
It's weird to hear that and compare it with, of course, "Achy Break Your Heart" was a, you know,
that was a smash.
I think it was a 10 million seller, and you know, that's the sign of the times we're in with the country.
Big time, big time.
But it's cool to hear that.
Yeah, it was stayed right on the top of the charts for the same. Tell us something that the audience will never know that happened during the taping of that.
Well, there was never anything real special that happened. The main thing that sticks out in my mind was that it started out as a complete disaster. The whole video did. And
in what way?
In that you know, you can't to shoot a video, and I'm making sure I understand this right. Nobody ever wants to shoot a video on a Monday because some reason they can't get tape or something on Mondays. You guys probably know more about that than I do, but that's the only day we had it. You know,
where was it taped?
In Nashville, and it was in a tunnel that goes under a railroad track. And so the very first thing that happened was we had this big giant projector behind me with the shots of the girl, and the projector broke, and it wasn't until we were supposed to start shooting, I think, at 8:30 that night, and it wasn't until about 3 a.m. that we actually started working. It was 7. I had to catch a flight at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was about 7 o'clock when we finished doing the video, and it was just, you know, any stupid thing that could happen, you know, did. And I was scared to death because I'd never done a video before, and so, you know, it was just, it wasn't a comfortable situation.
Whose Mustang was it?
I don't know who that thing was. I know they hung around all night and watched though, because you know, they had the headlights on the Mustang, and if you look closely, they had to take white shoe polish out the headlights so you can still see the glow, but the lights were too bright. You know, little things like that. But other than me being scared to death and all the technical problems we had, you know, that's really what sticks out in my mind.
With all that success coming at you so fast with Austin, what pressure do you feel?
I guess I used to feel more pressure than I do now, I guess, simply because, you know, it was just such a big, you know, single, and it was so big, and that's hard. That's a good thing to have, but it's also hard to overcome.
First one out of the box, man.
You're always compared to that, or at least I am.
Right.
You know, 5 weeks at #1. Now what are you going to do? You know.
You coin your expression. You set the water level.
Yeah. We set it up high to begin with, and the only problem with that is not being considered a failure whenever, you know, your song dies at 8.
Right.
It goes to 2, or, you know, or 18, or wherever. You know, to me, I still want to have a long career at this, and it's not a one song career for me. I want it to be multiple songs, and that with ORED really kicking in how it is, I've started to relax a little bit more lately and thinking, you know, maybe I'll get you know,
the second album.
A couple of years at this, and then we'll see.
How did it change your life, career and personal?
I guess it was real hard on me at first. You know, I kind of went through a period where kind of pushed everybody that was close to me away from me, and from what I hear, that's
the wrong thing to do.
Well, it's the wrong thing to do, and it happens a lot. You know,
it
was pretty similar to you know, other artists.
Do you think you're on an ego trip?
I think I'm certain I was, and you know, it's something that you have to take some time or just sit down and think real hard about what your priorities are now and what were they a year ago when nobody knew who you were, you know, and it's just a matter of you know, kicking yourself in the butt and making yourself straighten up.
Recognizing it.
Yeah, and you know, it's a tough thing to go through.
Yeah, I bet.
But hopefully now, you know, I feel like I've got my feet on the ground a little bit. I like to you know, try to, convince people around me to treat me the same way they would, because if you surround yourself with yes people, there's nothing good that can come out of that, because you're not getting any honesty, and people are scared of you. And I need people to be honest with me and tell me when I'm being a jerk or doing something wrong, and I'm not going to get mad about that, but unless I think they're wrong.
Tell them. Unless you tell them.
No, yeah,
there you go. You got to tell them. What effect did Austin have on its listeners? Did it inspire couples?
Well, I hear a lot of. You never know if you're hearing the truth or not.
Stories.
But I hear a lot of people say, I got back together with so-and-so because of that song. And it's great to hear those things. I think the only the story that I can feel like was a true, honest story was a lady that just sent me a long email one day, and it was when Austin was still probably in the 40s or something. It had only been out a little short amount of time at that point, and she sent an email saying that she had left her husband, and he didn't know if she was alive or dead even. And she did, for all he knew, that she'd been kidnapped and killed, and she was driving along, 8 months later, and happened to be flipping. She wasn't even a country fan, and happened to be flipping and landed on Austin and heard it, and they hadn't, and she didn't lie. She didn't say, "No, it's all good." She said, "I made the call," and he was standing. He was mad and he was tore up, but he was happy she was alive. But they were trying to work through it, and it was a cool story.
What advice did your friend ETC, as I call him when I do the radio show, Mr. Earl Thomas Conley, give you about the pressure that you had and that Austin put on you?
Well, I can't say exactly what Earl said, because this is probably a family show. But,
yeah, pretty much.
Earl's the kind of guy.
He's cool.
He is, and he's. If you want honesty from him, you're going to get it.
Absolutely.
You're going to get exactly. I call Earlvis. I call him.
Earlvis.
He's a cool guy, and I was having some trouble with different outlets of country music. There were some organizations that just flat out didn't like me, and I couldn't understand it, and it was part of my ego thing I went through, and I'd call him and he'd say, "Why, you don't want to get in it, right, man." Earl's thing is always just do, and you hear this all the time, and it's not. This isn't some great new thing I'm going to say here, but he's always just do what you love, and if people like you for it, more power to you. If they don't, at least you went down doing what you love doing and what you believed in, and that's what Earl always did. He got a lot of criticism back when he did. I think he did a record with Anita Pointer too many times, and got a lot of. He caught a lot of crap for that, but you know what? He loved it, and it made him happy, and that's what he believed in.
He had so many number ones, though.
18 number one
18
records.
number ones. I played them all on my radio show.
Yeah,
how did it feel meeting Earl Thomas Conley the first time? Were you nervous?
Oh, of course. Yeah. You can imagine whoever your hero, I don't know, whoever your hero is in life, and having a chance to meet him. My situation was even more nerve-wracking, because I was not only meeting my hero, but I was going to his house to sit down and write a song with him, and that was really.
He was your hero long before you got to Nashville. You listened to his music way before.
Sir. Back in Oklahoma when I lived there, I remember buying the first tape of his I bought was at a little bargain bin, the Hastings in Ada, Oklahoma, and I had heard, I knew all of his songs, but it wasn't until I actually bought that album that really was just eat up with him. Just his vocals, he sings with so much emotion. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I had him on the show already about 10 years ago.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Earlvis.
One of my favorite songs is "Fire and Smoke."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a great song, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. My favorite all-time Earl Thomas Conley song was one he had towards the end of his recording career, called "What I'd Say."
Okay.
But I love "Once in a Blue Moon," and of course "Holding Her and Loving You."
Oh yeah,
maybe his biggest signature song.
That was a great song. It took you 3 years to make your first CD. When's the next one due out? You thinking about a second one, right?
Yeah, in fact, we've got it mostly recorded at this point.
Oh, good.
And we'll probably come with a new single off that album this fall sometime, maybe late October, November, and that's the plan right now anyway. You know how that stuff changes.
Yeah, right,
but I think we've got it done, and probably be a lot like the first record in that it doesn't really have a direction again. It's just like, one of these days I'm going to figure out what I want to say in my music, but until then, I'm still trying to figure out who I am as a person. I'm 26, and I just now feel like I'm starting to, to get a focus on what I want to do with my life, and maybe that'll reflect my music. But until then, it's just going to be, you know, free for all.
How did you pick the songs for that second CD? How many did you write for that?
Well, you know, it'll change probably. Right now, I have. Do I have 3 things? I have three.
Oh,
I have 3 things on the record. That's the voice behind the curtain there. That's my voice of reason. But I have 3 things that I'm a writer on, and these songs are things that I've written by myself, or 2 of them are, and, which is kind of me stepping out a little bit and just trying something.
When you write a song, do you target a certain audience, such as an age group or anything, or you just write for the general public?
Yeah, I don't know who I'm trying to get to. My songs always end up being something about you know, a scene in a bar or something to do with drinking for some reason.
That's the direction you're going?
I guess so. You know, I guess when I start writing a song, I always think of my buddies back in Ada, and there's one guy in particular named Buck. We all call him, and he loves music, you know. And I'm always writing a song, thinking, man, Buck's going to think this line's cool or something, you know. And Buck is that guy that sits in the bar all the time, so that's probably why that happens.
Do you have to live the song to write it?
No, absolutely not. But if I did that,
you'd be in the bar.
Well, I'd also be in jail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about Old Red.
Okay.
Hoyt Axton introduced you to that song several years ago.
Yes, sir. My very first job when I hit town was painting his mother's house.
Hey, May's house.
Yeah,
I read that.
Mama May, born Axton, and he happened to be in town during that time for about 2 weeks, and I was working on her house, and he used to invite me onto his tour bus during my lunch breaks. And one day I climbed up there, and he just started a table just like that one there, and he just started tapping on the table there, and he sang Old Red to me a cappella for no reason other than just to entertain me, you know. But I held on to the song for, I guess it's been 8.5 years ago now until I was able to get it out on radio.
Who wrote that?
Mark Sherrill and Don Goodman, and there's a guy named James Bohan that's a writer on it, and you know, it's cool to me to see it doing well now, because I always felt like, even though I was 17 years old when I first heard that thing, I always felt like it was a special song and that people were going to like it. And now that it's out there, and I invested so much time hanging on to that song and fighting battles for it with the record companies and convincing them that I think this is something special, to see it doing well it really gives me a good feeling.
Tell us something about that video again that nobody's going to know if you don't tell them right now.
Wow, man, there was a lot of things. You know, I'll tell you, well, the thing, you know, the very first scene that it shows me walking down the hallway to my cell, that actually was death row in the Tennessee State Prison where we were. You know, the prison is abandoned now. They do shoot a lot of movies there. I think the Green Mile was shot in this prison, and Last Castle. But I'm walking down, and one or two cells down from where you see me go in was Old Smoky, which was the electric chair that was still, the chair's not there anymore, but it was the room, you know, and you could see the switch that they would pull, and kind of eerie feeling, you know. But to think, you know, these guys, man, these cells, you know, they're not bigger than this thing, you know.
Somebody lived there.
Yeah, and it's really amazing to think of the history and you know, the things that probably went on right there in that hallway for real, you know.
For real, I know. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you,
We're going to wrap it up.